Conrad Style is a style guide I wrote about everything having to do with style. So whether it was dressing, we talked all about different ways to shop, vintage, online, department stores, boutiques, kind of tips on dressing to your body type, dressing for occasions. We also did a lot of beauty, so we had a makeup chapter and a hair chapter. And it was kind of my way of taking all the things that I've learned over the years and putting it together into a book. The spark that inspired me to create the book was that I went on a book tour and a couple other events that I attended where I was able to meet fans. And when I had the opportunity to speak with them, one of the most common questions I was asked was having to do with style, whether it was my favorite store or where I got certain items of clothing. So I thought that, there was an interest there, and it's something that I love to talk about. And just over the years working in the entertainment industry and the fashion industry, I've gotten to learn a lot. So that was the initial idea behind the style guide. Style and fashion can empower young women and teens because when you feel good about the way you look and the way you're dressing, it helps with your self-esteem. I think that, while appearances aren't always the most important, I think that all girls want to feel pretty and feel good about themselves. I want readers of the Conrad Style Guide to finish the book and feel like they learned something. I want them to feel like they benefited from reading the book, and hopefully that it'll make things a little easier for them on the style front. The idea for the LA Candy series came from kind of a collaboration. I was originally talking to HarperCollins about a different book, and they were interested in me writing a tell-all about my experience on the Hills and with MTV. That was something that I wasn't willing to do, so LA Candy was a compromise. It was a story inspired by my own, but using different people in different situations, but writing it with the knowledge that I had, so it was still true. It was still kind of a insider's look. I always loved writing in school. I loved English, but writer was never on my to-do list. I was just on that road. I wanted to be a fashion designer. It was all I ever wanted to do. So I never wanted to be anything else. So I think once, I remember when I was 21, I had my first runway show, and I had this moment where I was like, I did it, but I'm only 21. So that was when I started exploring other options, saying, what else do I love to do? And I love anything creative. So writing was an option that I looked into, and I just ended up falling in love with it. Sugar and Spice is the third and final novel in the LA Candy series, so this is where everything comes together. And this was a fun one to write because in the third book, Jane, the main character, is a little bit wiser, and she's beginning to learn from all of her mistakes. So she's a little less of a victim in this one, which was fun. It was, she spent two books getting kicked around, and now she's kind of learned her lessons. Also, it's in this book you find, the obvious lesson, which is the truth always comes out. So there's some secrets revealed. I am currently working on a spin-off series from the LA Candy series. It would be with Madison, who's kind of the mean girl in that story, and it would take her and have her be the main character. So it's kind of a similar story told from a completely different point of view, which is pretty fun to write. She looks at everything so differently. She looks at situations that most people are terrified in, and she loves them. She loves attention. She loves manipulating the media. She lives for fame. And these are all things that Jane, the main character in LA Candy, hated and was terrified by. So it's been fun. I'm just in very early stages, but I've enjoyed it. I found out that I made New York Times bestseller list when I was on my book tour, because it was a 2-week tour, and I made it for the first week. So I was halfway done with my tour when I found out, and I remember I got the call when I was in my hotel, and I was so excited, but I was by myself in my room, so I had no one to get excited with, so I was just kind of jumping around by myself. And I didn't really get to celebrate it because I just had to go get on a plane and fly to my next destination, but I had my own little mini celebration. When I go to my book signings, the fans are amazing. It's crazy because you sit there for a few hours and you meet so many, hundreds and hundreds of people. But it's such a cool environment. Everyone's really excited to be there, and they're all, so complimentary and so kind. It's great. It's like being in this really happy place for several hours. So I love my signings. The most common questions that I'm asked at signings have to do with fashion, or a lot of times fashion school. A lot of girls who come to the signings are going to school and ask advice, whether it's internships or best ways to get a job. I'm kind of like a guidance counselor there. So I give a lot of school advice. A lot of times at the signings, people like to bring you presents, which is very sweet. A lot of times you get friendship bracelets, or they bring you candy. They bring me candy because I have LA candy. And I remember I think it was in New York, there was this adorable little boy who came up to get his book signed, and he had a suitcase with him. And he said that he brought me a present, and he went to unzip the suitcase. And I was like, what does he have in a suitcase? And he unzipped it, and several balloons came out. And it was really cute that he brought me a suitcase of balloons. My advice to give to someone who wants to work in the fashion industry is to get as much experience as possible. My high school didn't offer any courses having to do with fashion, so I went to the local art college and took classes. I also worked with several companies. I worked in marketing groups for a couple of surf companies that were in Orange County. I worked at trade shows. I interned at the Mart downtown, so I worked in a showroom. And then as soon as I started filming The Hills, I was working for Teen Vogue. So I was just constantly working, and even if you're working retail, it's just to be working within that industry, you're learning things every day.